A very good evening to all of you who are participating, attending this Viveka Vani talk. It's really a happy thing to know that a platform has been designed where Swami Vivekananda's thoughts are discussed, and it is very important today. Of all things that Swami Vivekananda talks about, the most striking or the most singular thing in the personality and life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda is the message of hope that he gives to everyone, the message of optimism, the message of confidence which he gives to everyone. Swami Vivekananda brings dynamism in you. And that's where today's topic is relevant. Particularly in the case of a person who was born, say, after 2000, the year 2000 or the year 2005, it would be comparatively difficult to understand why was there an independence struggle. Even people who are born post-independence, it's really difficult to imagine a world where people would have to fight to get independence, because we really live in a different world today. We live in a world which is bridged by technology, or so we think so. And things are comparatively easier at a different level. The problems of our country, India, or the problems of the world today are entirely different than the problems faced in 1947, when the world was coming out of the tragedy of the Second World War. India herself was coming out of the great struggle to become independent. Here, the problem is that now we don't have anybody to blame. That's the problem. The moment you have become independent, you don't have a ruler now. You can't blame somebody saying that, oh, these are the people who have made us slaves, and it's because of them that we are unable to excel in whatever we were supposed to do. So a huge factor who could be blamed for everything we were not able to do has been removed. So who do we blame? And that is a plight of almost all countries which have come out of slavery. Talking about slavery, Swami Vivekananda says that slavery has gone into the character of our country, unfortunately, because we have been enslaved for about 1,000 years. And so always we have this problem, the problems which come with slavery. And one of the biggest problems Swamiji points out is jealousy. He says, jealousy is the bane of this nation. That is, jealousy is the curse of this nation. When we talk about freedom, it's something which we need to get. But once you have freedom, unless you have cultivated your body and your mind, you don't know really what to do with that freedom. Let's imagine somebody were to give us whatever amount of wealth we want, whatever amount of time we want, whatever number of people we want to help us or to attend upon us. What would we do? That is the question. So if we consider the case of the nation we know as Switzerland, many years ago, the government of Switzerland came with a plan that, look, you don't need to go to offices, you don't need to do any work. If you're a citizen of Switzerland, we will credit your bank account with salary. All you have to do is just spend it and rest in your homes. The citizens of that country vehemently protested that, because they said, yes, we understand that this country is a very wealthy nation and that the government can provide salary just like that, but we want to do some work, because without doing work, we feel empty within. That's an interesting thing. Most people might not have noticed this news, but this is an interesting thing, that an entire nation wants to work, even if the government is ready to pay salary just like that. We Indians would think of this and say, wow, that's a good government. Some who are listening to this might even already have started imagining of migrating to Switzerland. I don't know. But really, is Switzerland a country we need to emulate? There are so many beautiful things about that country. Swamiji himself visited that country and he was enamored. He was so enthralled by the Alps. The question is, should India emulate, or should we think of that? Probably not, because Switzerland has a very high rate of psychological illnesses. The point being, freedom given to us without we being free to take charge of ourselves means nothing. And that's why an adult parent does not give the child all freedom, even though the child wants the freedom. Adolescence, teenage is a very critical phase of one's life. And the brain, the entire nervous system works in a peculiar way. There have been neuroscientists, scientific experiments about this particular phase of life. And so this is a phase of life when everyone thinks that we want to do so many things and we have the required intelligence, but somehow people don't allow us to do it. I believe any nation which has been slave, that slavery, period of slavery, can be equated with the period of teenager or adolescence in a human life. Only when you come out of slavery, it takes a lot of time to actually stop blaming the people who enslaved you. And that's why in philosophy, there's something known as post-colonial studies. So to come out of colonialism, to come out of the colonial hangover, it takes some time. And when you see that, yes, I have the power to dictate what would happen in my life. I remember the famous couplet written by Iqbal, the famous poet Iqbal. खुद को करो बुलंद इतना कि हर तदबीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. Make yourself so strong that before God writes your fate, of course, Swami Vivekananda does not believe in that. He says, you create your own fate. Let God ask you whether you're okay with this, whatever I have written, are you okay with this? So one should develop one's character. One should train the mind and the body to be capable of enjoying freedom. Here, there are certain interesting things which Swami Vivekananda says. He says, the very idea that I have to become free is a binding one. Because unless you think that you are bound, there's no point of thinking that you have to become free. So if you think you have to become free, that means deep down, you think that you are bound. Swami Vivekananda says that is not the case. Also, he cites Vedantic principles and says, Vedanta says that you are not bound. You have infinite power in you. Then why is it that we find ourselves thinking that I am bound? Why do I think that I am bound? Because that's what we have been slowly and systematically taught. Just imagine a small child is just lying down on the floor and probably has urinated there, has no problem and lies down on the urine and is very happy. But we, in the name of education, teach the child that no, that's all very dirty and all that. So I'm not saying that it should not be taught like that, but the whole idea of negation, the whole idea of seeing differences, the whole idea of hating something and liking something is taught by so-called education, which does not teach us that within me there lies infinite possibilities. I can do whatever I want, whatever I think I become. Swami Vivekananda says, again, it is a Vedantic principle. If I think I can, Swamiji says, if you think you can, you can. If you think you cannot, you cannot. So the great difference between a person who is successful and a person who is not so successful is the difference in self-confidence. And the phrase self-confidence itself has the answer, that this confidence is not something you get from outside. It is something which is within you. And who brings it out? The knowledge, the understanding that I can do anything brings it out. So we don't, when we read history, we don't read the history or lives of people who face suffering and succumb to those sufferings, who got defeated by failures. We don't read about those people. We read about those people who had to face tremendous suffering, tremendous failures, but overcome them. They overcame them. And that is where the difference is. If somebody says, I have no money, that's not the news. Another person says, I don't have much qualification. That's again not a new thing. Most people will be in the sailing in the same boat. But even though I don't have this educational attainment, even though I don't have that much wealth, this is what I want to do in life and I have achieved it. That's a story people would like to emulate. People would like to hear. So everyone can have that story. What is it? Why don't we have such stories? Because Swamiji's one famous poem is there, and he there says, dream but truer dreams. It's a line from that poem. He says, dream but truer dreams. So yeah, it's good to dream. It's good to have a vision. It's good to have an ideal. But what kind of vision? If your vision is just that you should have roti, kapda and makan, food, dress and clothing, or shelter, food, shelter and clothing, if that is what you are thinking about, then what is the difference between a human being and an animal? So our ideal should be something greater than the mundane things. Everyone will get 2 square meals a day. That's not an ideal. That cannot be an ideal. So what is it? Where is your heart? Where lies your heart? Think about it. And then take the responsibility of molding your mind and body to achieve that particular ideal. It could be anything very simple, anything very ordinary, so-called ordinary. But if you focus on that particular ideal and then you train your mind and body, then you can achieve it. Because according to Swami Vivekananda, according to Vedanta, the entire idea of freedom is an illusionary idea, because only a person who is bound can become free. To begin with, you are not bound. You are free all the time. That's why even when Swami Vivekananda was a great inspiration to all the freedom fighters in the country, Swami Vivekananda himself did not talk much about the political freedom of this nation. He did say in 1897 that for the next 50 years, this country should be your focus of attention. And exactly after 50 years in 1947, India became independent. But if we look at the post-independent history, post-independence history of this nation, we will be surprised and also alarmed that countries which have been independent for much less time have progressed much better than our country. And the reason is because of the diversity in almost every field of life which our country has and the complications which that brings. And so Swamiji thought of a freedom which is not the freedom of the external surroundings, but freedom from the external surroundings. This is what Vedanta teaches you. Vedanta does not allow you to succumb or surrender to limitations. Limitations would be always there. Even a person like Albert Einstein had to finally die. Limitations of the body, limitations of the mind, limitations of this universe, limitations of space and time would always be there. But what is Vedanta teaching us? What is Swamiji teaching us? Swamiji is saying that do not bother about these limitations. Take up the whole responsibility of your work on your shoulders. And he says, work like a master. So how do we become responsibly free? Understanding that essentially we are always free. That's the first step, to understand that essentially I am always free. My body, my mind, my illness in the body level or at the mind level does not make me slave. First, we have to understand this. Second, we have to do whatever we do, whatever little thing. It could be cleaning a room. We have to do whatever little things we do as though we are the masters of that work. So I don't clean my room because somebody has said that. I clean the room because I live in that room, or I want somebody else to stay in that room and I want a cleaner room for that person. So taking up responsibility, working like a master, I clean the room. This is what Swami Vivekananda expects. And so here Swamiji says the idea of duty is a very binding idea. We say in Sanskrita, the word is kartavya. Kartavya means it's conditional. It is order that you should do. And Swamiji says this idea that it is a duty I have to do is a very, very binding idea. It does not give you any freedom. We cannot deny that most part of our lives are spent in doing some work. The most part is spent in doing some work. But that work we are unable to do in a free way. Either we are doing it because that's what our employer wants us to do, or we are doing it because that's what our parents are asking us to do, or the teacher is asking us to do, or we are doing it because some other family member is asking us to do. That's why people are very happy in pursuing hobbies, in pastimes. But when it comes to work, they get much drudgery. They feel exhausted. People are always waiting when the weekend will come. So this weekend is actually weakening you. The whole concept of weekend, that weekend will come, then I will relax. And then what happens? You relax. Again, then Monday comes and then you are again, it becomes mundane to you. Why does that happen? It's just a thought. But if the same thing where, like, say somebody is watching series on the internet, web series. No amount of watching web series seems to tire people because you love it. So you watch it. So this freedom, the idea that I have to become free is a wrong idea, because then it means that you are already bound. And so now you have to become a free person. And even if you think that you are bound now, the idea that you have to do something because it has been required by someone that you do something is a very, very binding idea. So don't do things because it is required. Do things because you love them. The question is, so if I have been given the task of cooking food for the family, for the home, should I not do it? Yes, you should do it, but then you should find a way to do it with love. Love is the binding factor. And today, that is the great casualty in homes, in workplaces, in educational institutions, in society in general. Love is the biggest casualty. We have forgot to connect to our inner beings. We have forgot to connect to the other people. We have forgotten that. And that's why people feel closer to dogs and cats, pets, than human beings. Where does this come? No amount of objects, no amount of conveniences can give you love. I am now reminded of this book, Thank You for Being Late, written by Thomas Friedman. And there, this person talks about how the greatest industrial revolution of our age, that is artificial intelligence, is impacting our lives. But he says that there are certain things which artificial intelligence can never take away from the human beings. And that is, and also the whole idea that artificial intelligence will take over the world, etc., is a very imaginary idea, at least today in 2022. So what will happen? No amount of artificial intelligence can give love. No amount of artificial intelligence. In fact, artificial intelligence, there is artificial intelligence which can write stories, which can write movie scripts, which can write poems. So it has developed a lot. We human beings have developed it. But no amount of artificial intelligence can give you love or empathy. It cannot give you kindness. These are things which are humane things. These are the unique points of the human being. And this is what we have to develop. And so a human being can develop only when a human being understands that she or he is a free person. And that's why Swami Vivekananda talks about the ideal of Madalasa, a queen who used to bring up her babies, telling them that you are pure, you are enlightened. And those kids used to grow up and they used to go to the forest and find out the truth about their self and used to become enlightened persons. Instead of that, what are we doing? We are getting this idea that you cannot do anything, you're not fit for this, you're not good for this. And so we get narrowed. We are made powerless. And constantly, whereas Swami Vivekananda has high hopes, as was told in the introduction, from the youth, Swamiji says, from them will come my future workers. Whereas that is the case with Swami Vivekananda, generally, whenever there is a program for the youth, it all starts from this cliche dialogue saying that today's youth is going wayward, today's youth has lost the purpose, etc. So this kind of negativity, we are living in a society which bombards us with negativity, particularly in the Indian context. Whatever you open your mobile phone, your smartphones, your handheld devices, you open your laptop, you open your newspaper. I don't know why anybody should open a newspaper in 2022. But anyway, if somebody opens that, you are bombarded with negativity. So a person becomes depressed, and it is only natural that the person becomes depressed. For example, there is a very serious condition called FOMO, fear of missing out. And it's a very serious condition that I am unable to keep track of my friends' activities. And so I go into depression. It's not a joke. It's a very serious condition. But why does that happen? Because I think that my existence, my being is dependent on the social life of my friends. That I have to have a social life and prove to the world that I exist. René Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. But now I post on social media, therefore I am. It has changed. It's a vast change. And Vedanta says you don't need to prove to anybody that you are, because you are. The very fact that you have the cognition I shows that you are. You don't need to prove it to anyone. And so today, wherever you go, any kind of person, any age range, any age category, everyone has some kind of psychological problem, and that problem comes because of comparison. It comes because of comparison. This comparison is thrust upon us by media. The media wants you to compare. Oh, which phone do you want to buy? Even it starts from that level. So you lose your freedom voluntarily to, say, Amazon or Flipkart. I have got nothing against these sites. I use them very much. But the point is that you lose voluntarily your freedom, and your life is dictated by what others think of your behavior and what you think of others' behavior. For instance, nowadays people watch a movie only after reading reviews of that movie. So you are already biased whether that movie is good or not. So we are living in a society where our ideas are constantly tinkered and tampered by other people because we voluntarily allow us to it to be done like that. So this is not being free. Freedom requires critical thinking. Swami Vivekananda famously cited Lord Buddha, and said that do not believe in anything just because it has been said in a particular book, or do not believe in anything just because some person says that. Believe in something only when you have found out the truth for yourself. And so that can happen only when a person can think independent of the circumstances a person lives in, which is a very big thing to achieve. It's a tall order, but still one can try. One can go in that direction. So the first step to become responsible is to understand that freedom does not come from outside to inside. It is the opposite. Freedom comes from inside, and it is manifested in whatever we do externally. And the second thing is to understand that that freedom will come only when one has a wisdom or knowledge of one's own nature. Swamiji says that when Newton was sitting under a tree and apple fell on him, on his head, the law of gravitation, the principle of gravitation was not sitting anywhere outside. It was not sitting in the apple. It was sitting inside Sir Isaac Newton so that he could bring it out. So all wisdom is within you, within everyone. And it is our idea, our knowledge, our understanding that I am free, which will bring out this knowledge. And that knowledge makes you free. This very knowledge that you can do everything, that you have infinite possibilities, makes you free. Any kind of ignorance binds you. Any kind of darkness binds you. We have all faced, or we know our friends who have faced, or somebody in the family who has faced fear of going into a dark room or a dark alley or a dark corridor. People who stay in hostels during night time, most of the people, they don't want to go to a library where nobody else is there. Or in the hospitals, there is a place where mortuary is there. Some of people don't like, though there may be no dead body in the mortuary. So these are imaginary fears we have created. A person who is really free does not fear. Why? Because that person knows that I am free. And so how do we translate this into society? How do we translate it into civic sense? If you see something going wrong in society, say you see that the road is full of potholes, what do? Instead of just discussing about that every time you're driving on that road full of potholes, instead of just tweeting people, why don't you do something corrective about it? Why don't you just try to connect with people and fix that road? The idea that government has to do everything for me is a very, again, binding idea. So the idea that it is my duty to do this, or it is the duty of X, Y, or Z to do this for me are both binding ideas. So when a person takes responsibility on oneself, that this is what I find and it has to be corrected, it has to be addressed, and it is I who has to do it, then you will find that people and other resources will come to you. Our problem, particularly in the context of India, is that we lack industry, we lack enterprise. Swamiji said, very famously, he said, he was the guest of a lady in the United States of America. And one evening he said, I have found my love. And this lady, who was very much bothered that this monk did not have any person, means he was alone, he did not have any person. I don't know why society is always bothered if somebody does not marry. So this lady thought that, oh, he has got some person. Then she asked Swamiji, who is that fortunate lady? And Swamiji said, it is American organization. American organization. Swamiji fell in love with American organization. The qualities of following the leader in America. And that is what has led to the development of that nation. Taking good things from across the world and bringing it to American society, taking their help and creating a society. Whereas India, one big problem with India is, of course, jealousy. Swamiji talks about it endlessly. And the other problem is we love talking, but we stop there. We only love talking. We don't like to translate those talks into action. We don't like to translate our principles into action. And so it's no wonder that there are countries across the world who are turning the ancient principles and theories which India has produced into something which they think is tangible. So it's high time at this juncture, when we are celebrating 75 years of independence as a country, we have to think of what is really India, what is really Bharata, what is the concept, and how do we understand this principle? Because it's really a peculiar thing that unlike any other ethnicity, unlike any other race, an Indian who goes outside India for generations cannot give up this tag that I am an Indian. You don't see this with other people. Like you don't find a German. Of course, the German will identify that, yes, I am German. But once the German goes and settles in, say, United States of America, after 2 generations, they don't really bother. But it is not the case with Indians. Indians everywhere, they continue to be Indians. So there is a very deep-rooted cultural affinity, spiritual, philosophical affinity. What is that? What are our roots? We have to understand. And have we understood that India was never historically much bothered about the quest of political freedom? It was never bothered about the quest of geographical boundaries. It was more bothered about the quest about spiritual freedom. There's this famous question which is asked by the disciple to the Rishi in the Upanishads. In the Upanishad, Kasminno Bhagavan Vigyatam Sarvamidam Vigyatum Bhavatyam iti. What is it knowing which all this in the universe can be known? This is the question. It's a very scientific question. And the same question was asked by Albert Einstein. He said, give me one force which can explain 4 forces, 4 basic forces of physics of this universe. So that question was the question which is a philosophical question. Swamiji says, Swami Vivekananda says, a philosopher's question is always why, not how. How is a technology question. So philosopher's question was asked, what is it which brings everything into action? What is it knowing which one can know everything in this universe? So that core truth one has to know. And the answer is that the truth does not lie externally. It does not lie without you. It is within you. It is within you. So everyone can know that truth and everyone can understand that truth, and that truth sets you free. And you become Atma Triptah. You become self-contained, self-fulfilled. You don't need any food, any dress, any shelter. You don't need clothing, shelter, or companion. So you are alone, but you are Atma Ramu. You are dwelling on your own self and you're happy in your own self, not in the sense that you're happy with your body or your mind, but you understand that your true self is much beyond body and mind. So that is a great knowledge. That's a great wisdom that should be taught to every child in our country. Instead of telling the child that you are a girl, you are a boy, you belong to this religion, you belong to this language, etc. We need to tell the child that you are Atman. And the spiritual identity of a person should be constantly pointed out. And then that person will become truly free. Swami Vivekananda talks about that anecdote where real freedom was experienced or seen, observed by Alexander when he was about to return to his home, his country. He chanced to meet a sage, and that sage, he talked and he liked that sage because of the wisdom of the sage. And then he said that, why don't you come with me to my country? And the sage said, no, I don't want to come. I am not interested. So Alexander said, do you know who am I? I can chop off your head. Then the sage said, no, you cannot kill me. You can only kill the body. So that is true freedom, where you are not bound to the body. You're not bound to the mind. You're not bound to any failure. You're not bound to any success. Whereas today we are teaching our children to do things which are mathematically improbable. We ask children to fight for a post, which is only one post for which tens and thousands of people have applied, and we say you get that post. It is not even mathematically probable because only one person will get it. Every child in a class of say 60 has to get the first rank. Again, mathematically improbable because only one child will get the first rank. And so we have ridiculous percentages. Like there are colleges where the second and third cutoff is 98.5%. And yet we have bridges and buildings collapsing. So basically we are not giving wisdom or knowledge. We are making a fun and buffoonery of the whole thing. Why? Because our quest is based entirely on comparison. So it doesn't matter whether I need this food or not. I need to buy this food and have it stocked in my refrigerator because my neighbor has that. It doesn't matter whether I need this automobile or not. I need to have it because my friend has it. And that kind of a behavior where I am not dwelling on myself, but on other people, on the external circumstances, has led us to such a confusion in this world that today, even though we have so much, we are not satisfied. People have serious psychological disorders like shopping. Online shopping is really, sometimes it can become a mania. People shop like anything, stock their room or their house fully with items they completely don't need. Spend the money, spend time, and also waste the space of their house. Why? Because they want to find meaning in objects. So that has never led to any kind of fulfillment. So the fulfillment, only fulfillment which can really lead to happiness is fulfillment of understanding what one is. Just after the Second World War, there came a serious condition in some people's lives who were in concentration camps and who were freed after the war ended. But they had no families because all the families were killed. They did not have their degrees because everything was burnt. Their wealth was gone. So now they did not know what to do. One such person was Viktor E. Frankl, who has written this famous book, Man in Search of Meaning. So with that clean slate, a person had to start and to find meaning. It is high time that we try to find meaning in our lives. And that meaning could be different, would be different for every person. But that meaning, when it is found, one should not stop in the first quest itself. Continuously, one should try to find meaning, deeper and deeper layers of meaning. And then finally, that person will arrive at the truth of one's own self. And this is not mumbo jumbo. This is not something which is just a lot of algebraic talk. It is something very palpable, which can be attained, which gives you a lot of freedom, which actually makes you powerful. A person who is in control of oneself is the most powerful person in the world. You may be controlling the entire world, but if you have not any control over yourself, you have no power. So true freedom is to control oneself, to train oneself, equip one's body and mind to attain whatever they want to attain, and to make this body and mind instruments in the path of serving others. That's true freedom. And Swami Vivekananda said that our country has two ideals, renunciation and service. And Swamiji says, channelize this nation on those lines and everything will take care of itself. If we have failed in any place, this is where we have failed. We have forgotten the true ideal of our country. And if we continue to go on this rat race of competition, because anywhere you go in India, north, south, east, west, you find youth everywhere trying to crack public service commission exams. Everyone wants a government office job. So this is not the right path to take. The right path to take is to equip our minds and our bodies and make us better instruments in serving others, make ourselves better people having better understanding about oneself. If we can do that, then we will be truly free, and then we will be able to be responsibly discharge this freedom or use this freedom, which we always have. I thank this platform for having given me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this subject. And I really wish and pray that this platform would be a place where many young minds would be charged with the thoughts of Swamiji, not as a thing like you go to a temple and put on some kind of mark on your forehead or get some prasada. Of course, prasada is interesting aspect of a temple journey, very tasty aspect also. But not just that, you make your spiritual life dynamic, where not only it goes inside you, these spiritual thoughts, and percolates in your being, but also it transforms you and it influences others. Thank you for listening to whatever I had to say. Thank you very much. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.